Well, hey folks, Jeff Salzman here, and welcome to the Daily Evolver. It's really great to be back with you after my summer break, which turned into my fall break. And here it is, 2023, and I am rested and ready. So here we go. I think some of you may know that during my break, I became more involved with Twitter. And I have to say, I like Twitter. I think it's a perfect medium to inject integral insights into current events as they're happening in real time. And, there's people posting things, you can respond, it's quick, it's juicy if you want. You can choose the arenas you want to be in. So if you want to be in the arena to fight, you can do that. If you want to be in the arena to friend, you can do that. And so anyway, if you like what I bring to the party, I would encourage you to go to Twitter or Google Jeff or a Daily Evolver Twitter. It's at Daily Evolver on Twitter, and press the follow button and, check it out. Only, however, if you can stomach it. And I have to say that many of my friends, both inside and outside the integral community, have developed serious antibodies to Twitter. And especially now that it's owned and operated by Twitter's new chief twit, I think he calls himself, Elon Musk. And he's who I want to talk about today, the Elon Musk phenomena, and particularly what he's bringing to or doing to Twitter. So just a quick recap of what I'm doing here on the Daily Evolver. My calling is to look at current events and the players in current events through the lens of integral theory. In fact, you can see it on my Twitter bio. I say they have to be real short, so I distilled it down. I offer commentary on current events based on the premise that human consciousness and culture are evolving, and that evolution, while not pretty, is beautiful. And that's what I do. A central idea behind integral theory, developmental theory, is that as we develop as cultures and individuals, we move through discernible stages. And you could slice and dice these differently, and different systems do, but the basic idea is that, the physical model that people use when they're talking about development is often the spiral of development, spiral dynamics, that sort of thing, because that's a perfect image of an organism, essentially, where each stage structure grows out of the previous ones while including them. So greater span as you go, as well as greater depth. And that's important. So, it's just sort of a quick intro to that. I'm not going to spend time here, but I would encourage you to go again to my Twitter bio. You'll see it in the bio, a link to a page that I created over my break, exclusively for civilians, if you will. I put it on my Twitter bio because I want people who are interested in integral or me to, get a quick, easy explanation of my approach to using integral theory to understanding current events, and reverse versa, using current events to understand integral. And so, the page has got a lot of cool graphics that my friend Namali Pereira did. And it's a good refresher. It might be something you would send to somebody who's interested in this. And, it's the easiest of on-ramps. So I wanted to just lay that out for people who are not exactly sure where I'm coming from. Okay, so back to the main subject of this episode, and that's Elon Musk. In this podcast, I will try to make the case that Elon Musk is what we, using integral developmental jargon, might refer to as a spiral wizard. That was a phrase that was put out, particularly in a spiral dynamics lineage, if you will. And that's somebody who's able to function very well at several stages of human development, including, and this is critical, the leading edge and the lagging edge. That's, most of us are functional at, traditional, modern, postmodern, maybe. But when you get functional at the leading edge of integral and even the lagging edge of warrior, and we'll get to that in a second, then, it's not pretty always, but I get ahead of myself here. So anyway, back to the basics. There are three big tectonic worldviews that are currently in contention. Each stage has its own worldview. One is traditionalism. That's the God and country people, maybe 25% of the culture in the US and the West. Modernity, secular, rational. These are maybe the 50% in the middle. And then postmodernity, sensitive, world-centric, egalitarian, and they are the leading edge out of which integral emerges. Each of these worldviews have something really precious to offer, and they all hate each other. That's just sort of the way it is, and it's something we have to take into account. Most people can function in one or two of the worldviews, traditional, modern, postmodern. And generally, modern's the common denominator. We have people who are easily fit in a traditional / modern world. We have people who fit in a modern / postmodern world, but particularly traditionalism and postmodern ideologies really polarize against the other. So if you can integrate that polarization and find a fit for all three of these worldviews in your own psyche, then you're beginning to get into integral territory. And so that's the lay of the land. So again, back to Musk. Where is he on this developmental schema? I would locate Elon Musk in terms of his center of gravity, or his heart, where he's naturally lands or grows from, is the modern stage of development. And it makes sense because the modern stage is sort of the center of gravity of the modern world, if you will, the West, the Japan, the modern thinking world. And in developmental theory, the person, the individual with the center of gravity of modern is often referred to as the achiever. And Elon Musk is an achiever, squared again. I mean, he requires us to radically expand the definition of what an achiever even means. It's astonishing. He's the first person to become a billionaire in 4 different industries. Industries he created or recreated, most prominently Tesla, the car company. It's not easy to start a new car company from scratch, much less a new car technology. And I have to say, the Teslas are magnificent. I mean, the idea of an electric car before Tesla was like, a glorified golf cart. And not only is the machine itself amazing, but the operating system, the charging system, how it's networked into, getting software updates. It's just a whole new ball game of innovation. Innovation growth being really modern core values. So that's Tesla, and that's just the beginning. It's astonishing. Again, he founded SpaceX, of course, with the Falcon Heavy, I think, the super heavy rocket that doubles the payload of the previously most powerful rocket. And get this, it's reusable. It takes off, it does its thing, and it comes back and lands. I mean, I don't know what to make of that. Then there's Starlink, the system of low orbit satellites that currently is keeping Ukraine on the internet during the war when the other infrastructure is taken out. It's hard to overestimate the value of that in, a very important war between traditionalism, authoritarianism, and modernity with Russia and Ukraine. And that's a whole other story that I've talked a lot about, but that's, the huge contribution there. And then there's his tunneling company, the solar roof tiles and battery storage, and now Twitter. So from a modern achiever perspective, I have to say that I fucking marvel at that. And so do most modern people. I mean, the modern people don't have a big problem with Elon Musk. They have little problems perhaps, but not big problems because, he's expressing where they live. And I have that modern, structure in myself. So, in terms of redefining what human beings are capable of, which he does, an analogy that I think of is, perhaps you saw it, it's a 60 Minutes segment with Anderson Cooper a couple months ago, maybe, about this great dog Chaser who had been trained by her master to find, or I'm sorry, her owner, her companion, yes, to find any one of 600 toys in a pile. They actually did it on 60 Minutes. Go get the squirrel, go get the fire hydrant. Chaser would go in this huge pile of toys and find it and bring it back. And it turns out that Chaser understands 1,000 words, more than any other animal of any species except humans. And doing so has exponentially expanded our understanding of what dogs and animals are capable of. And humans' understanding of what animals are capable of is just beginning to flourish. This is another evolutionary move that we're in the middle of, and another story which I've talked about and will again. But anyway, he's that kind of guy for humans from that modern perspective. Now, there is, we talk about every stage of development has a good side and a mean side, or a bad side, and we call it mean modernity. And one of the fundamentalism of modernity is materialism, where everything is reduced to its material components, consciousness, all of it. We can put consciousness in robots, we can create consciousness with, all that sort of thing. God, of course, religion, it's like Ken Wilber said, we move from a world in traditionalism where God is everywhere. The world is saturated in God, divinity, all of human history, until 300 years ago, where all of that is thrown away, and we move into modernity. Thank God, modernity's great gifts, but it does disenchant the world. And I think if I had to get, I don't see a shred of spirituality or enchantment from Elon Musk. So I think that's where he is, as many of us are, at the cutting edge even. So anyway, that's sort of the take of his mastery, if you will, of modernity. So let's look at then postmodernity. And to explain this, I have a chance to look at sort of a different aspect of how development happens in a culture and in each one of us. And an easy back pocket way of thinking about this, and I explain this on that Twitter page that's on my Twitter bio, is that cultures and people evolve in the first person, I, that is my own interiority, how I think, my sort of world of Jeff, that gets bigger as I evolve. In second person, how we relate to you, to other people, to other cultures, and that whole sort of mutuality also evolves. And then in the third person, and that's technology, the stuff of our world that we all live in and can touch, that's the it's of the world. And all three of those are evolving co-evolving at the same time, not necessarily uniformly. And sometimes our technology gets ahead of our moral development, first person or second person, and so forth. And so, welcome to the catastrophe of human history. But so with that in mind, we can see that from a third person perspective, that is the world of technology and stuff, it would be hard to imagine a single person on the planet who has done more to further the green energy agenda, for instance. Solar and battery storage alone, Elon Musk has moved things along probably by a decade. And not just in theory and thinking and lab research, but in actual physical manifestation. So, and then, of course, third person in terms of communications technology is social media. That's where everybody has a voice. And, the hierarchies are broken down, and all the triumphalist narratives of history are broken down, and everybody gets to get in the game. And so his foray into Twitter is, of course, his a move into third-person communications technology. It also has of course, it's big-time first-person in terms of people's thinking and also how we deal with each other. So he's taken on the whole ball of wax here, and I'm not sure he gets postmodernity in the first and second person. Just sort of a quick overview in terms of first-person postmodern. The ideology of postmodernity is egalitarian, world-centric in the interiors, very culturally sensitive in general. The whole world of psychology and introspection in the way that we do it in the postmodern world. That's that I don't know if he's has that a lot of that available. He's politically calls himself a soft libertarian. He's kind of a classic liberal, and voted Democratic, as he said, until recently. So, center left, center right. He's up the middle, not left in the way that of emerging postmodernity. In fact, he has declared war on postmodern ideology, war in terms of, at least in the Twitter sphere. He calls woke a mind virus and says it must be stopped. And this is a common misunderstanding of very sophisticated modernists, classic liberals, if you will. They see postmodernity in general, and the woke expression of it in particular, to be a wrong turn in history. It shouldn't have happened. And we need to come back to just rational, modern, level playing field, equality, but not egalitarianism. So, that's the struggle. We see that in the culture war. And so, but from an integral perspective, postmodernity is not a wrong turn in history. It's a right turn in history. It's a stage of development with many gifts of, again, sensitivity, righting the wrongs of history, deconstructing triumphalist narratives that have plagued humanity. And woke is the fundamentalist expression of it. Every stage comes in on the backs of their fundamentalists, and the fundamentalists, or fanatics, if you will, sort of keep it in line, and they actually continue to evolve as well. I talked about the fundamentalism of modernity is materialism. The fundamentalism of traditionalism, of course, is my God versus your God, and my culture versus your culture. So that's sort of integral, sort of makes that differentiation. So one of the things that postmodernity wants, and this is where Musk draws the line, and of course a lot of classic liberals do, is postmodernity, and particularly woke, wants not just a level playing field. They want affirmative action to redress the injustices of the past as they see it. They do want more equality of outcomes. They have a natural antipathy to private corporate power. It's like, I think it was AOC who said that a billionaire is a failure of policy, that they shouldn't even exist, that there should be, people should be able to achieve, but not to create fortunes greater than the net worths or gross domestic product of many countries. The postmodern is world-centric with an emphasis on sustainability, not growth, allergic to growth. They like government power because it more easily serves their ends. And of course, big-time cultural power. The left has controlled the culture up until recently. It's been challenged. And of course, this is a big challenge with Musk taking over Twitter and, being upfront about it. That has created a great blowback from liberals that we see playing out every day. So, we can look at, so that's sort of that first person ideology of way of thinking in green postmodernity. In terms of the way we deal with others, postmodernity, we become very sensitive to other people, particularly those who have been marginalized or unseen. Empathy is not Elon Musk's strong suit. In fact, he may be on the empathy spectrum, skewing to the extreme of, I don't want to call him a psychopath because it's so loaded. I do have an episode I did a year or so ago called "Psychopaths Are People Too," where I talk about empathy, the empathy spectrum, and how sometimes being low empathy can be powerful. It can also be destructive, and that's, again, a whole other discussion. But, I think of people like him, politicians, people in the public eye, and I wonder how they can sleep at night with the sheer level of vitriol that, in the case of Elon Musk, he's actively inviting it every day on Twitter. He's poking the bear, picking the scab. And, I consider that sort of consciousness, even collective consciousness, to have sort of a liquid quality that literally would disturb my sleep. I'd feel it. But, either one, he doesn't feel it. He doesn't have the antenna. He doesn't mind. It doesn't register with him. Or he likes it. And, this is a little bit of a foreshadowing of how Elon Musk is read. He likes fighting. So before we get into that, let's look at the traditional. So we looked at Elon Musk in terms of the modern and postmodern stages. Let's look in terms of the traditional stage. From the traditional worldview and traditionalists in the country, I think traditionalists are a little ambivalent about Elon Musk. First of all, they love him for taking on their enemy, the postmodern wokesters. They have allergies to government power, not private power. Private power, they're good. Do they like electric cars? Not really. Liberals drive electric cars. That's maybe going to change. I don't know. It's funny how that works, isn't it? And Musk doesn't seem to care much. So anyway, in terms of how traditionalists see Musk, I think it's something like that. But what's more interesting is his own interiority in terms of how he inhabits his own traditional structure, and he does. What's true about traditional structures in terms of power structures is that traditional leaders don't just lead, they rule, right? When we get to modernity and postmodernity, where we get this idea of separation of powers, particularly in modernity, the ideal leader is the person who can bring people together to have persuasive powers, to bring out people's bests, to help people create the future together, create something together. Traditionalists, that's not it. When you think of kings, pre-modern rulers, the idea is to get people to fall in line. And the great leaders were the ones that could mobilize people. They didn't necessarily want to persuade them. It's a little bit like Putin's last speech here. It's like, hey, we're on war footing now. Everybody's got to fall in line here. It's not about persuasion. And Trump does that naturally. He rules. In fact, it's funny, his official title for Tesla, filed at the SEC, is Techno King. And he says it's a joke, and it is. It's just like Chief Twit, but there's truth to it. My nephew worked at Tesla for years, and at that time, this is a couple of years ago, Musk had 24 direct reports as CEO. And that's just unheard of. It's like, how do you do that? This is not a hierarchical structure. This is not a company where there are visioning meetings and everyone's opinion is fully seen and respected and where their feelings are taken into account. No. It's a company where Big Daddy says how it's going to be. And if Big Daddy's right more than he's wrong, or she, and it can be both, then it works. People do fall in line. If the mission is persuasive, they want to fall in line. So you have concentrated power with a shared responsibility for executing it, for carrying it out. And this is a tried and true strategy or structure, particularly for startups, entrepreneurial companies. You want to have a monomaniac on a mission to start something, and it can be a great adventure if this maniac has the vision worth following. And so people will fall in line. You can feel your own traditional, structure where it's like, yes, tell me what to do. I'll be part of it. I want to fall in line. I want to join the crusade. And so he's good at that too. So he does both. He leads and he rules. And that's sort of an integration of those two things. So anyway, that's Elon Musk in terms of how he comes from these big three worldviews that are currently online and in contention: traditionalism, modernism, postmodern. So that's all fascinating. When you're doing that, you're in integral territory. But then there's the leading edge, where it's more conscious integral territory. And there's what is even more fascinating. There's the lagging edge, the stage of development before traditionalism that we call the warrior/empire stage. And it is egocentric instead of ethnocentric, very much focused on me. And it's not that you even want to rule. You want to rule, but mainly you want to conquer. It's about acquisition, domination. You're not just Big Daddy or Big Mama. You're a warlord. You're a gang leader in a certain sense. And of course, now when you have this energy titrated into a bigger structure of traditionalism, modernism, and postmodernism, it's not as pernicious and violent, literally, as it is in history. But the imperative is to fight. Just fight. You get up in the morning as a warrior, and if you don't have a fight, you take it easy, but you're looking for a fight. And the idea is not just to win. It's really, you win or lose, you just keep fighting. It's like Trump. Trump has a huge red center of gravity. I think that's where he actually lives. But he's functional. He's also a sort of a dark spiral wizard in a way. But, he talks about winning, but really he just fights. You just never surrender. It's like, who was saying that Russia is now in all of history, Russia stops fighting when they can't fight anymore. And that's not just Russia. That's true of any warrior empire civilization. So, it's like the Warrior's Creed. Today is a good day to die. And it's hard for us in the modern world to wrap our head around that. But there's something that's wild and passionate and alive about it that is really, really powerful when it's included in the meme stack, when it's included in the spiral of where you're coming from yourself. And it's not pretty. It loves chaos. It creates chaos just for the sake of it. It actually has this sense that fighting is fruitful even without a goal, because it just keeps things from calcifying. It keeps things in the air. It keeps the eyeballs on you. That's very important if you're creating chaos. We all know people like this in our lives. Attention itself is the currency. It's not necessarily the goal. And, I find the red energy is, first of all, naturally repulsive to the later structures. We've spent a lot of time in history getting over this egocentric stage. Ethnocentric, one of its jobs is to do that by creating a transcendent God and rules and the whole thing. And then once we get to modernity, there's a great pacification that comes online, where cooperation is, modern people want to cooperate. They really don't want to fight. And if they do, it's the idea is to fight fruitfully. But fear is a big part of it. I think fear is a big part for Elon. I mean, you don't want to tweet against him because he'll, tweet back, and he has however million followers. And I remember just how repulsed I was when this is several years ago, when he offered the guy who was trying to save the Boy Scouts in Thailand who had gotten caught in a cave. Remember that? And he offered to this submarine thing that he had created, Musk did, and the guy rejected it. And Musk tweeted that he was okay, pedo man, PEDO, like pedophile man. And that's like, fuck you. This guy's saving these kids, and he did. And so, that is, I can feel the revulsion and in what he's tweeting now. It's really kind of astonishing. It's developmentally, if we think of, the growing as an individual human being, it's like a 5-year-old. It's the egocentric stage of development. It's perfectly fine for a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old. It's not so pretty on a 74-year-old ex-president. And, I can't deny its power. And just as another little sort of bit of odd evidence for his redness, if you will, his warrior stage, this egocentric stage, is that Teslas, these magnificent, beautiful cars, have fart sounds. You can fart in an intersection, and there's 6 versions of the fart, including, quote, not a fart. I mean, it's really, again, I have a Tesla. It's what I was like, it was like, what? It has this natural revulsion to me, but powerful when it's, again, titrated into a bigger stack. And so that's the lagging edge. And he inhabits it like very few people can, along with these others. And then, so that is, when you're doing that, it's de facto integral in the sense that you have a lot of capacity. You contain multitudes. Elon contains more than most, but we all want to be aware of, to differentiate and integrate these worldviews within ourselves, and including these early ones, including magic and awareness without thought. We can go all the way to the beginning, but that's another story. But I do want to make the case for Musk having integral sensibility. So this leading edge of development, and again, just his capacity to inhabit the previous stages is my first evidence. But also just his, we talk about meta-systemic thinking in terms of systems at Integral. And I don't know anybody who thinks in terms of systems better than Musk, particularly again in terms of thinking, of course, is first person, but the way he thinks about if you move something here, here's what happens over here, and he just has it all. It's just unbelievable. We've made that case. But also in terms of him taking over Twitter, I have to say, I don't personally notice a big difference. It may be who I've been subscribed to. There's some difference. There's definitely, if you think of what he's done. So when he took over Twitter, both Donald Trump and Alex Jones were deplatformed. He replatformed Trump and didn't replatform Alex Jones. And I'm good with all of the above. I was good when it happened with Trump. I was good at this point with letting him back on. He's not back on. He's doing his own Truth Social or his, talk about red, his baseball cards, Trump's baseball cards, where there's 12 different versions of him in various, either red or traditional. He's either a sheriff or a superhero, or he's shooting. It's hard to wrap your head around those cards, but they're very red, very egocentric. But he was the president. Apparently, he was the president of the United States for 4 years. So, these decisions are made, but Trump has justified them fairly capriciously. Alex Jones is not allowed back on because he went after children with the Sandy Hook thing. And, using this is a green empathetic move on Elon Musk's part. He said, I held my firstborn baby in my arms as he stopped breathing. And I'm not going to let anybody who's bad to kids on. So it's a very, in a way, egocentric rationale. But, in the case of Alex Jones, I'll take it. But, one of the things that Elon Musk is doing with Twitter is he is busting up the hegemony of the left that really ran Twitter. 95% of Twitter employees vote Democratic. That sort of says it all. It's not even, you don't even have to be terribly intentional at that point about, creating a monoperspectival platform. It just comes naturally, and for the best of reasons from a green progressive perspective. It's like Yoel Roth, who was the director of safety at Twitter. There's a piece that went around where he's being interviewed by Kara Swisher, who is a technology podcaster and writer. And he makes the case that to criticize or satirize a historically marginalized group like transgendered people is to literally put them in danger. And that's why you can't do that. That doesn't fly in a civil society of free speech. The criticism and satirization has to be allowed. And we're going to have a healthier system if it is. So, this is again how Musk is, so he talks about hewing to the laws of any particular country. And this is a world-centric view. You've got to do that. If you want to build a factory in China, you have to know how to get along with the Chinese. If Twitter is indeed going to be a marketplace of ideas, a conversation for the world, it has to hew to the laws of any particular country. And that is, I think, represents an integral sensibility. Let's see what else. Very much into experimentation versus analysis. we're going to fail forward. That's how he talks to the employees. They're down to 2,000 employees from, double or triple that. And, this is that traditional thing. He doesn't want everybody there who doesn't believe in what he's doing. He only wants the true believers. That's where you can get something done, from that true believer stage of, power. So that's also, I think, has an integral sensibility to it. And then maybe the most important thing that Elon Musk does, aside from take us to Mars, which, if that happens and, Earth ends and humanity continues, then, what can you say about somebody who's done that? That's his idea, is that we'll seed human consciousness into the bigger cosmos. And, that's amazing. But short of that, the biggest thing that Elon Musk could do would be to make transparent the algorithms of social media and big internet. And so far they're not. He pledges that they will be. He's made his patents available for all of his inventions and so forth with Tesla. They're transparent, they're available. And that's something, it's like, I'm here for the adventure. There's a wonderful liberation that comes even from that red perspective of, I don't care if this kills me. I'm in this game to make my contribution and come what may. And so I'm throwing the doors open. Everybody can look. And I trust that will be the way forward. And I think it will be the way forward. And so I'm excited about that. And I think that's probably all I have to say. I've been prattling on here for a while, but is there anything final I would say is, again, we'll see how it goes with Twitter. He's got the third person down, the engineering. We'll see if he can handle the we space and the I space that it also brings. And again, I'm going to be on Twitter. I'm liking it more all the time, actually, for me and for my purposes. And so if you want to follow me, go there. It's at Daily Evolver on Twitter. And, I'll keep tweeting and I'll keep doing these podcasts, and, we'll figure this out, right? Take us forward into the sacred world to come. Okay, everybody. Well, thanks so much for listening to the Daily Evolver. Again, it's great to be back, and we'll see you next time.